Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. We got some more 2A news for you. And boy, I'm going to tell you right now, the hypocrisy of these people knows absolutely no bounds. We're going to be talking about Hunter Biden today. Buckle in. It's going to be a trip. Let's just go ahead and get down the rabbit hole. I'm going to be sharing an article here today that my good friend John Crump wrote from Ammo Land. It's called A No Compromise Look at Hunter Biden. This was just published. Hope y'all ready for this. We're going to break into it. Before we get started, I would like to thank our friends at Griffin Armament for supporting our videos. If you're looking for anything in the suppressor world, they are your go-to people. Veteran owned and operated. They got an awesome social media presence. Huge supporters of the Second Amendment community. They got some awesome mounting system for their suppressors. Really, really good stuff. So if you're looking for one of the absolute best suppressors you can get on the market right now, look no further than Griffin. Great group of people. We've got a ton of videos coming up, not only range videos where we're using their cans, but also some dedicated reviews. So stay tuned for that. Many more coming on the way with Griffin. But thanks to Griffin Armament for supporting our content here on the channel. We're going to get right into this one. All right. Wilmington, Delaware. As part of a plea deal, Hunter Biden will plead guilty to 2 counts of willful failure to pay federal income tax and enter into a pretrial diversion agreement over the possession of a firearm by a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance. The plea deal will see the president's son avoid any jail time. The gun charge stems from the younger Biden acquiring a firearm in 2018 while being addicted to crack cocaine. Hunter Biden purchased a Colt Cobra .38 Special revolver from a Delaware gun store that year, stating on an ATF Form 4473 that he was not a current user of any illegal substances. Later, the firearm was recovered from a dumpster behind a grocery store, where it was disposed of by his lover, who happened to be his deceased brother's wife, Haley Biden. Oh boy. Shortly after, Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop would be turned over to the FBI and others, showing damning evidence of Hunter Biden's fondness for crack cocaine and prostitutes. The gun charge could have landed Biden in prison for 10 years. And you better believe it would land you in prison for 10 years. Oh no, lowly peon. Do as we say, not as we do, right? Many on the conservative side of the aisle pointed out the hypocrisy of Biden not being criminally charged, while others faced incarceration for the same violation. Others called for the prosecution of Biden for lying on a 4473. While I can understand and sympathize with people that wanted to see Hunter Biden prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, we must not let our disdain for the corruption in the Biden family dilute our own no-compromise gun rights position. Crump, I love you, brother. Dude, I agree. I'm completely on the same page. I understand, believe me, many of us think that this degenerate behavior is terrible and we don't want to see it, but we also don't want to see our rights eroded in equal ways. It's like, I understand where Crump is coming from and his assessment on this. We have to look at the bigger picture, right? If we want to remove, let's just say, the prohibition of these controlled substances from a 4473, or if we even want to fight the idea of a 4473 being unconstitutional to begin with, you can't necessarily start throwing, the hammer down hard on everybody. I mean, look at Kyle Myers, FPS Russia. He got popped over that cannabis oil or whatever, and they took his gun rights away. You charge him with all types of stuff, and that's a terrible situation, right? We should be removing the entire idea that is somehow unlawful or illegal to begin with anyway. Now, I already did a complete Substack article on guns and weed. If you want to check it out, I'll probably include a link to that in the description box below, but I digress. We're not going to get into that here. But I've already given my thoughts about that. I'm just not going to share it just here right now. Biden lied on an ATF Form 4473, and recently in U.S. versus Holden, the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld a conviction of a man who lied on the background check form. A 3-judge panel ruled that no matter how constitutionally dubious the 4473 form is, John Holden had no right to lie on a form to acquire a firearm. The panel stated that Holden could have simply not answered the question. The catch is that the gun store would then be unable to sell him the firearm. The court's answer to this conundrum would be for the prospective buyer to sue the federal government. many readers will sympathize with the plight of Holden, but celebrate the downfall of Biden. To be a true no compromise gun rights advocates, we must put aside our personal feelings about the Biden family. Focus on the bigger picture, the constitutionality of the Form 4473 and the laws prohibiting users of drugs from owning firearms. First, let's look at the Seventh Circuit's assertion that Holden could have chosen not to answer certain questions on the 4473. If he didn't, it is almost certain that the gun store would not have transferred the firearm, leaving him no choice but to sue the federal government. Taking on the federal government in court is a costly endeavor and could take years to get the appropriate relief. Very few people can afford such a case. Holden's only real choices were to lie on the 4473 or give up his God-given right to bear arms for life. Maybe Hunter Biden was in the financial position to challenge the law, but should he have to fight the government for a right he has that is protected by the Constitution? The Bruin decision states that all gun laws must be consistent with the original text, tradition, and history of the Second Amendment. At the time of the ratification of the Second Amendment, there was no law anywhere in the country that required Americans to fill out a form to be able to purchase a firearm. Likewise, there is nowhere in the Second Amendment that states that you must fill out a form honestly and be subject to a background check to acquire a firearm. In fact, I believe the Founding Fathers would be horrified to know that we asked for a government permission slip to buy a gun. Then there is the government's prohibition of people of various substances from owning firearms. These laws even ban users of marijuana from having guns. The medicinal uses of marijuana are something widely accepted across the medical field. Many states have decriminalized marijuana, leading to widespread confusion about gun laws amongst firearms owners and marijuana users. Yet the federal government refuses to change the law. Prohibition has never worked, and it never will. As no compromise gun rights advocates, we should oppose more than the prohibition of marijuana users from owning firearms. Choosing to put a substance in your body should not strip you of an inalienable right. Especially when you look at all these people that say, well, my body, my choice, and all of this mess. So you can't have it both ways. Hey, that's fine. Your body, your choice, you do your thing. But it shouldn't be anyone's say to decide what someone does with their body and what they choose to put into it. If they're not being violent and they're not committing a violent action with a gun, then they shouldn't be subject to any type of criminal penalty just because they choose to do what they want to do with their body. I mean, obviously, as long as they're not hurting another person, it shouldn't matter. That's just the way I look at it, but that's just the libertarian in me coming out. Once again, we look to the original text, history, and tradition of the Second Amendment. The text does not prohibit anyone from owning a firearm because of the substances they choose to ingest. The federal government will be hard-pressed to find historical analogs to show any laws in 1791 banning someone from a core right because they put something that the government doesn't like into their body. Stripping someone of their right without due process is not only un-American, but is also evil. Some might disagree with my stance on Hunter Biden, but I believe we can point out the hypocrisy of the Biden family without becoming hypocrites ourselves. Will I cry for Hunter Biden? Absolutely not. Do I think that he got off lightly because of his dad? Absolutely. But I will not want laws applied to him that I don't want to be applied to other Americans. I am a gun rights absolutionist. It goes far beyond the Second Amendment. I accept gun rights as human rights. That means being no compromise no matter what my personal feelings are about a person. I believe that the government does not have a role in regulating firearms. I think that all gun laws are inherently evil, and I will not let my feelings towards one individual make me compromise my beliefs. Well said, Crump. I agree with you, John. You know, we have to be careful how far we tread in this particular territory. Okay, so did Hunter Biden get a slap on the wrist because his dad's the president? You better believe he did. Would you get thrown in the gulag for doing a quarter of what Hunter Biden has done? Absolutely yes, right? And that hypocrisy knows no bounds. It is very, very concerning, and it does make a lot of us very angry to see these types of situations play out, especially when you have thousands of Americans, thousands upon thousands of Americans who are locked up like animals in a cage by people like Kamala Harris. Yet they're going to talk about gun control and safety. They're gonna play that fiddle until it falls apart, talking about how they want more gun control and assault weapons bans and this and that and all this stuff. But Hunter Biden lies on a 4473, and all of a sudden, oh well, he's struggling with addiction. It's always the poor me. Oh well, he's not addicted to that anymore. He went through a rough time. We should help him. You hear all these people coming out of the woodwork. Well, everyone has a rough time in life. Well, that's true. Look, I'll give credit where it's due. Yeah, sometimes we have hard times in life that we go through. We have difficult situations that we go through, right? Yes, sometimes we turn to certain areas that we probably shouldn't turn to deal with the strife that we're going through in life, right? That might include the use of illicit substances or someone that drinks heavy to deal with some of their problems. Look, we've all been in very dark places in our life. I'm not saying that we're perfect. I'm not saying that human beings are perfect. I'm not saying that we're the perfect emotional, animal, if you will, right? Like we are fallible to our own beliefs and our own vices, right? I understand that. I mean, no one is saying that Hunter Biden is a terrible person for turning to the bottle or turning to drugs or turning to some vice. We all are guilty of it. You show me an innocent man, I'll show you a liar, right? I ain't saying that in one minute, right? Now, do I think his behavior is very degenerate and unbefitting of any decent human being? Yes, I do. However, I'm still human enough to understand that we all go through dark places in our life, and how we choose to deal with those has consequences, right? You're not just any freaking Joe Blow. You're a person whose last name is freaking Biden, okay? Your father is the freaking president, okay? And that has consequences. If there's positive consequences to throwing your name around in foreign governments, if you know what I mean, and getting checks for the big guy, right? If that has its benefits, well, then the consequences of doing something wrong should be all that much more. Right? In the military, if an officer does something unlawful, they're held to an incredibly high standard, right? Look at Nazi war criminals. What happens to them? Most of them got shot. Nuremberg trials came along. All right, you did this, you gave unlawful orders. I mean, sure, the men under you were just following orders according to them, but you're the one that issued the order, right? What happens to tyrants when wars are over, right? 78% of them are killed. Right? So I'm not suggesting the man's a tyrant, but the man is the son of a leader. And if you're going to lead, you have to lead by example. Your name is freaking Biden. The best thing that could have happened in this outcome was either the courts should have said, hey, this marijuana prohibition, we need to look at this closer. And hey, maybe this Hunter Biden thing just brings it out that much further in the open that maybe we are a little bit too strict on this. Okay. Throw a bone, whatever, right? Or two, Biden should have made a statement and said, I'm strictly for gun safety and this and that, and we follow the law, and no one is immune from the law. Equal enforcement of the law for every single person, including my son. He could have easily said, look, Hunter, you got to face the rap, buddy. You broke the law, and here we are pushing for this gun control. You're just gonna have to suck it up and deal with it. Did he do that? No, he didn't. So again, is that to say that you look at a person like Hunter Biden, who is a typical rich guy's son, right? Like, I've been around enough rich kids to know how a lot of them act. They think their crap doesn't stink. They think that they can just control everybody. Everybody's a servant to them. Like, I get it. They live like degenerates. A lot of them do. Okay, it's just a fact of the matter. Some of them hide it really well, but at the end of the day, most rich kids act like complete degenerates. It's not to say that Hunter Biden is acting in a way that is completely uncharacteristic of what rich kids act like. We have already crossed the threshold of understanding that Biden is just doing what rich kids do. I'm not saying it's right. What we are mad about is that he lied about it, that they tried to hide the laptop, that they tried to do this and tried to do that. They didn't want you to have the information that was available on hand at the time because they didn't want you to think for yourself and come up with your own conclusion about what you thought about that family, that it would hurt Joe Biden's chances of being elected president. That's what this all comes down to. And that's what's so scary about the situation, is to think that they will completely, do away with common decency. Is just the idea of being informed with the simple facts an indecent proposition? Just because I don't want to get into all the details on this, but it's unfair. And I think that, when you look at the gun community, and so many people are trying so hard to just do the right thing, right? People just want to own their guns and take care of their families and work hard and pay their taxes and just do their daily grind. Like, they're not concerned about the whims and wishes of the elite class or the ruling class or anything like that. They just want to be left alone. And here are these people you're telling you're going to throw upwards of 39 million people in jail over a braced pistol, right? Which carries the exact same penalty as lying on that 4473. Oh, but if Hunter does it, though, he gets a little sweetheart deal because he's the president's son, right? It's just hypocritical, right? It should put a complete stop in all of this talk about gun control. Like, you have no right to talk about gun control with anybody when your own family obviously can't even follow the rules. And it's a slap in the face of average Americans who are desperately trying to just remain on the good side of the law and do the right thing and take care of their families and their communities. And just because they choose to use firearms as a means to protect themselves, that they're somehow punished simply by existing. But yet, you do something wrong and all of a sudden, he was struggling, he was going through an issue. Nobody's buying that. And I think that this is a huge black eye on these people. Like, they know, trust me, they know what they're doing is incredibly hypocritical, incredibly wrong, and it's just egregious. And oh boy, what a story. I mean, like, we knew this day was coming. This story's been out a long time. We knew that Hunter Biden threw away this gun, that he lied on a form. They've been investigating this for over 5 years, and they finally now come to the conclusion. Why didn't they come to the conclusion 3 years ago? Or why didn't they come to the conclusion like before Biden was elected? Why aren't they coming to this conclusion now that, maybe Biden has outlived his political usefulness to the Democrat Party? And they're trying to find a way to, we're going to paint him with a black eye and throw this little stain out there. Maybe it's just something they kept in the back of their up their sleeve as a little wild card they could throw out if they need to just kind of make that stain a little bit worse. And I'm telling you, that's how these people think. If they have dirt on you, they're going to keep it until that dirt is the most useful for them to hurt you in some way. And that's what's so terrible about it. It's not about justice. It's not about what's right and wrong. They knew it was wrong way back when. But it's just, let's keep this wrong deed up our sleeve and then use it at the most critical opportunity that we can. That's what's so terrible about it. But anyway, great article there by John Crump. Check out Ammo Land. Great news site with tons of great stuff going on. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon.